Okay, so I'm just getting ready to set up and record, and I want to see if this does this. All right, I'm going to click on my OB Studio. All right, I want you to note it wasn't down there. All right, and then now it's down there, and I get this message. OBS is already running. Unless you meant to do this, please shut down any existing instances of OB before trying to run a new instance. Okay, so I don't know if you saw it, but there was nothing running. I had nothing going down here. Alright, I went to open that app or whatever, and it tells me it's already running. Always recording. Always. So, there you go. Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are, because it is certainly good to be here. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is Mud City. All right. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to talk about bricks today. I've seen there's been quite a bit out there recently about bricks, and if you follow my channel at all, you know that I've been having weird experiences with bricks in Baltimore, and I've been working on a theory regarding the row homes and the bricks in Baltimore, going back to like my first video, right? And it just really has the theory as a whole hasn't really sort of coalesced strong enough yet for me to feel that I'm ready to try to put together a presentation yet. I'm letting that thing come to me organically. But with all this brick talk going on out there, I wanted to, chime in a little bit too, right? To borrow an expression, it's a copycat league, I guess, right? So, yeah. So let me just show you a little bit in case you are new to the channel. Oh, shoot. Oh, there's Mr. X. I wanted to give him a plug. I haven't talked to him in a while. So actually, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. It was on the wrong picture. So people familiar with my channel here know that I've been experiencing this magnetic pattern on the bricks, and it's popping up all over the place in Baltimore and in other places as well, as we're going to find out. And it's just really sort of very curious to me, having because it's clearly not visible to the naked eye, right? And looking at old pictures that are like analog, or I don't know, a film rather, not digital. You never see anything like this on bricks or anything like that. So the way that this makes me feel when I look at it, and when I think about how it's present in a lot of bricks, that there's obviously a magnetic quality here, and that the digital cameras, the way they're making them, because, and again, I believe that our digital cameras, our cell phones and things like this, are manipulation devices in so many different ways, but one of the ways they do it is through changing our perception, of how big our world is, and how I guess I'm going to just say high definition, because I'm not really sure, but they're really manipulating how we see the world and how we experience the world around us through cell phones and things like that, right? That's what's happening. And so I think when they were making these new cameras, or when they were designing them, they didn't expect this. They didn't expect to see, for these magnetic patterns to come up. And, I don't know if other people are having the problem. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And again, I have one photo from a sub that I'm going to show in a little bit. And, so if you're out and about and you're interested in this and you're walking by a brick building, take a picture. See if you see this magnetic pattern. Let's see if we can't draw correlations on the ground with this. I don't know, call me crazy, but I think there's something going on with this. And and so I brought up Mount Clear because we're going to now talk about the history of Baltimore and brick, right? And So I'm going to start here with Mount Clair. This is the Mount Clair wiki, right? And this is the first most. This is where I'm going to begin the story, right? So this area had originally been near the first selected. Wait a minute, did I read that right? This area had originally been near the first selected site by the appointed town commissioners for the new Baltimore town. And I haven't talked about Baltimore town yet, but it's coming, of course. Baltimore town is going to be a part of Mud City, which was laid out in 1729. A different location further northeast on the basin, head of the northwest branch of the Patapsco River, was chosen after the landowner John Mole objected to the project on the theory that he had located important iron ore deposits there that he intended to eventually mine and exploit. Okay, so now, right, and so 120 years earlier, during the first explorations and mapping by the famed Captain John Smith of the North Chesapeake Bay on his 1608 map, he labeled what is now the Patapsco River as Bolus River, from the Latin word meaning clay. Okay, so going back to the very first guy, the very first Englishman to explore the Chesapeake Bay, or so they're telling us, right? He makes a connection right away that the soil, that the land around this Patapsco River is going to be good, right? And that the Mount Clair area, Mount Clair, this whole area here, right, was going to be the site for Baltimore town. But this guy, who I guess owned the property at the time, this John Mole, where did he go? Here he is. The property that, so I guess it was, he owned the property, but he sells it, I guess, to the Carrolls because it becomes the Carroll property. But so they were going to build the town here, and he says, no, move it. And so they moved it down closer near to where the Inner Harbor is today. So I want to talk about, this is, talks about, this is from my friends at the Mount Clair Museum House, who were so gracious to me when I went in there for my Man on a Hill video. And, they were lovely, lovely people. And again, if you enjoy history, please, by all means, go to the Carrolls Mount Clair. Okay, so it says the Carrolls' land was rich in brick-making clay. These clay deposits were located between the Patapsco River and the rise upon which Mount Clair now stands. The rise which Mount Clair now stands. Gosh darn it. Here it is, the rise which it stands. These clay fields would eventually provide a basis for Baltimore's brickmaking industry throughout the 19th century. The area around today's Washington Boulevard was known as Carroll's Field and was considered among the finest sources of brickmaking clay in the country at the time. Finest sources of brickmaking clay. All right. 1700s, they're saying 1700s, right? Mount Clair itself was built primarily from bricks made on the property. Charles Carroll, barrister, also purchased some brick from a local Baltimore merchant. Now, this was on Carroll property. These bricks, mined, or however you, well, not mined, but however you make bricks, they bake that mud. They baked that mud right here in Baltimore for this one, right down the street from my house. But again, we're gonna get more into that. So it's in the 19th century, the Carroll family leased land in Carroll's Field to a variety of brick-making manufacturers, the largest being the Burns and Russell Company, whose site was located at the present-day entrance to Carroll Park. It has been estimated that 80% of the houses in Baltimore west of Jones Falls were made of Burns and Russell brick from Carroll's Field. Now, see, I didn't think about it at the time. I should have brought up a map and done that. Again, everything I do is kind of rough draft anyway, because if I actually wanted to, do the hard work of making, real movies and videos and like overdubbing and, music and titles and things. I would just never get done. It would just take me forever. But beside Mount Clair, but that's an interesting side project. I might have to do that and maybe tack it on later or do a bonus episode or something. Besides Mount Clair, many other Maryland landmarks were built of brick from Carroll's Field, including the Baltimore Shot Tower, which I haven't gotten to yet, the B&O Railroad's Mount Clair Station, Johns Hopkins, the U.S. Naval Academy, for crying out loud. The U.S. Naval Academy buildings were built with mud from Baltimore. Okay. By the mid-1870s, the Clay and Carroll brick fields was essentially exhausted. So I want you to think about that statement here, okay? By the mid-1870s, so just after 10 years after the Civil War, the richest, best mud in America tapped out, okay? Manufacturers were forced to close their plants and look elsewhere for the clay they needed to continue making bricks. All right, so now we're going to move on. So just interesting, right? The mountain, that Mount Clair, which also has B&O Railroad, the richest, best mud for brick making in America at the time. It doesn't say that they ever found better mud, but maybe they did. I don't know. And we're going to get into a little bit more, I think, what mud could be. So Baltimore brick by brick, and again, a little bit of reading. I know there's going to be a lot of reading in this one. But okay, so why our bricks have no frogs? Now this I think is really interesting. Okay, that's a frog. All right, and I'm going to read about what frogs are here. All right, so frogs are indentations made in the bed of a brick that have the following practical advantages. They reduce the amount of clay needed to make a brick. They lightened the brick. They created a better key for the mortar to adhere to. They offered a surface for the brickmaker to impress his name upon, acting as an early canvas for advertising. That is post-reset. That is, we're coming into the 1880s now, right? We are most concerned with this last item, the branding potential of a lowly brick. First, a bit of history. Brick frogs seem to date to the late 17th century, but only came into use in the U.S. during the late 19th century. The Hudson Valley region, which supplied most of the bricks to the voracious New York City building market, saw a progression of bricks featuring a brand on the surface of the brick, as seen below. All right, they just stamped there. Whatever brick making company, right, stamped there. To a recessed frog, to even deeper frogs. All right. So now the frog is this cutout in here where they put their mortar or whatever. The recessed frog seems to have become popular for Hudson Valley brickmakers and others around the turn of the century to supply the booming New York City market. New York City, right? Hundreds of brickmakers line tiny banks of the Hudson all the way past Albany, sending their bricks to the city by barge, right? Look at this. That's a beach of bricks. Here you can imagine the branded frog playing an important role. Amid the atmosphere of fierce competition in a booming industry, the frog allowed proud brickmakers to advertise their name and catch the eye of builders. Imagine you're a bricklayer for a 20-story building, and you're handling thousands of bricks a day, all of them marked with the name Massey. The name impressed upon the brick probably became impressed upon your mind. And when your current load runs out, who are you going to call? You're going to call Massey, right? In New York City, virtually every old building brick you come across will have one of several hundred brands on it. In Baltimore, brick hunting can be an exercise in frustration because it seems there are hardly any bricks with frogs and or names on them. Sure, you'll see a Calvert or a Homewood occasionally, maybe an Oxford here or there, but that's about it. During our deconstruction projects, we've handled well over 1 million bricks, and the tally of bricks with frogs stands at 0. What gives? What follows is only a guess, but a quasi-educated one. And I got my own guess, which I'm going to... We've mentioned that frogs became popular during the late 19th century, so it pays to see what was going on in the Baltimore brick biz around then. Turns out something momentous was taking place. In July of 1899, the Baltimore Brick Company was formed when it bought up almost all of the competing brick makers in Baltimore, essentially becoming a monopoly in the Baltimore brick game. All right, and I'm not going to read all these companies, but just look. Let's see if I can count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe there's 12. Is there more? Again, I can't see that whole paragraph at once. So anyway, there was a whole, look at all of the freaking brick builders or brick manufacturers in Baltimore, July of 1899. So who knows when they started consolidating, but this is in a map of East Baltimore below from 1876. You can see the Donnelly, Smith, Robinson, and Perot brickyards. I can't really see them. It's too light for me without blowing it up and everything, but I'll leave it here for a second so you can, maybe you'll see. But they're all close together, right? And I'm curious, I have to get a better, see, I just wanted this, again, as with all my presentations, I just want them to be fun and quick. I don't want to over prepare because they would just go on forever, and this way it's fun, and if I find new things, I can come back and do more episodes. The idea is to have fun with this and keep going. This is the Baltimore Brick Company. This map was 1906 after all that consolidation. So, but just imagine, so in the couple of decades before Baltimore Brick Company was formed, right? Look at all the names of all of these brick makers, right? And yet, they say by the mid-1870s, Carroll Fields, anyway, was tapped. So I wonder where all of these brick makers were getting all of their brick. Well, I'm thinking maybe they weren't brick makers. This is the cover story, right? This is the way they have to do it throughout the history, right? These are like, I don't know, was it like Ponzi schemes or something, right? They set up a bunch of different corporations and then they all get consolidated under the one, right? So it makes it, I don't know, there's something wants to come out of that for me, but it's a cover-up, right? For the fact that Baltimore bricks don't have frogs, right? Because they know that Baltimore is older than New York. It is just, I know even in conventional history it is, right? But maybe not so much, not so much in conventional history. What they're doing, and again, they're hiding history, and they're hiding it through Baltimore. Baltimore was the place where they rigged what is America today. Right? They set it all up out of here with all their lawyering and their plantations, and they're rooting around in the mud, these worm knights, the descendants of worm knights or whoever they are. They dug this country out starting here. Baltimore is the oldest, and it's going to get important with this, right? Season 2, although again, it just, I wanted to go out and be doing that today, but it's been, well, winter erupted in Baltimore over the last week or so, and it's been colder than a witch's superfluous third nipple. And windy and stuff, and there's been some weather, snow and stuff, and school delays and closings and holidays, so it just hasn't been a good time to get season 2 rolling yet. So I'm gonna try to scrape together a few videos this week. Hopefully by the end of the week it'll be better, and I can go out and start taking the pictures that I need to take and start making the connections that I need to make with the Catholic Church and the Carrolls and the Jesuits and all this other stuff. It's going to come to that. So anyway, why does Baltimore not have frogs? Because it's before that time, right? And they admit it with saying that the Carroll Fields were rich in that stuff in the 1700s. So the things that they were building allegedly, if you want to put this mud event, whatever it was that happened, if you want to put that in the late 1700s or so, Um, this is what they used right after, and so going back now, one of the things, and I didn't set up something like this, but going back to Mount Clair, right? And now I have not been a part of this. I haven't looked into this, and I mentioned the other day how before I started my channel, I was just a regular guy who was interested in the fact that he understood that a history was a lie, and and if everything was a lie, so I would just I collected conspiracy, and I've been doing this since I was you know my son's age, really, with In Search of and stuff. I've always kind of had this understanding, and I've always questioned things, and so of course, before I found Mudflood's video about the buildings in New York, in the Bronx, I think it was, I had been, tuning in a little bit to a channel called Wise Up, and his, you know, you know, mud, mud fossil research, things like that, right? And very curious because when I was a kid, and let's see, maybe I can play around with this real quick. When I was a kid growing up, there was a Sleepy Giant Park mountain in Hamden, Connecticut. And let's see. Whoops, I didn't get the other M in there, or other E in there, rather. Let's see. Yes, please show me. Come on, like you didn't know what I meant. I said it. You're listening. See if we get a good image of it. Here it is. There he is. All right. He's just laying down there. He's a nice big mountain. It's awesome to go hiking up there. I haven't gone that many times, but I have gone a few times, and I have friends who still go as often as they can. And man, the idea when I was a kid, when I heard that name, that range was Sleeping Giant, and I can't remember the road now. Maybe it's, my friends again. It's been so long since I've driven and lived in Connecticut, but there's a great shot of it. I'm going down one of the roads into Ham Whitney, or I don't know. I can't remember, but it's beautiful, right? And man, as a kid, when I was like 9, 10 years old, and I heard they called that Sleeping Giant, and I looked and I saw that giant there. You could see it. And so I've always been interested in the idea. It tickled. I just loved the thought of him waking up someday. He was going to wake up and stand around and be this giant rock mountain guy. So, but then again, it was always just, that thought was always just a flight of fancy. I always thought they just connected. Of course, it looks like a sleeping guy, so call it Sleeping Giant, right? Giants were never real or anything like that, right? Well, maybe they were, right? And so that's my thought. And so I'm going to try to wrap it up quickly. I didn't bring up any mud fossil stuff, but the idea is that there were these titans, and they were covered in that first deluge, right? And maybe even not the first one, who knows? But they are our ground today, right? And that real. Oh, and one of the things with these photos, the ones that are from the heck. I don't even know where that came from. See, that threw me off. I hate when that happens. That this pattern here that happens is because of the rich iron in the Baltimore brick, right? Did I mention that earlier or not? I can't remember. This is my friend Tom. He makes the best music in the world. See now. So anyway, I'm thinking that the mud, the rich iron deposits in the red brick mud is the coagulated blood of these titans, and that's why it's so important. That's why it was so important to come here, and that's why it was so important to build these structures with the brick that they were built with. And I think that in Baltimore, and a lot of the brick buildings in Baltimore are significantly older, perhaps, because they don't show those stamps. And Anyway, that's nice to see this picture of Sleeping Giant. I didn't think that would come up today. That's nice. Um, so yeah, so there's my presentation. You know, the brickwork is the blood of the giants. It's rich in iron. Iron has very sort of magnetic properties. You know, magnetism is related to frequency. You know, they're controlling our environment through frequency with the sound that was coming out of the big church machines. You know, and they they were able to switch it from, they were able to take that tech, whatever it was, they were able to make modern technology out of it, and they did that shit fast. Pardon my French. Once they found the recipe or whatever it was in the late 1800s. I mean, you got to think 120, 100. What are we looking at? 140 years since 1880, and just think about what's happened, and even in the last 20 years. They were able to take what was there before and make it to this total manipulation system that they have going today. There is no truth, okay? There are only systems of belief, and one idea does not hold any more weight than any other idea, and that's the most important thing in truthing. And I think everyone should really be aware of that. Okay, so anyway, all right, off my high horse. This was my rushed, incomplete, not very well thought out presentation on bricks and how they relate to the architecture and what the previous civilization may have been doing or why they used brick the way they did. Okay, and anyway, so that's it, guys. I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm so looking forward to the way that Mud City's going to go. I am going to have so much fun coming up. I cannot wait, and I hope you guys come along with me. And thank you so much for. Oh shit! Pardon my French. I forgot the whole fixin'. See, I'm glad I looked up in this corner. Fixin' time. This is for you, my friend. And this is also going to go out to Conspiracy R Us too. Fixin', like more than a week ago, I don't know, whenever I made my Radio Days video, I don't remember the date on that one, he sent me a picture of this standpipe, which, coincidentally enough, there are no coincidences, but coincidentally enough, he dropped this in a comment on my Radio Days video. There are no coincidences that this was in my comment, and then that Conspiracy R Us does a video about it, and there's no coincidences that there was that big brick conference or chat that that was done recently. So I didn't get much opportunity to really look into the standpipes, and now I really wish I had, because it wasn't the standpipe aspect that really. Oh, there's my timer too. Okay, it was look at that. It was almost perfect timing. It wasn't the standpipe aspect that got me interested in this. It was this. Do you see it? Do you see that magnetic ring coming right out of the top of this like a great eye or whatever? This is an amazing picture. Fixin' time. Thank you so much for sending me this picture. And again, for me, I hadn't thought about it, the standpipe aspect of it. It only came to this because I see this all the time, and this makes me think, now that I did my presentation this morning, that maybe these bricks came from Baltimore, and this standpipe is really, really old. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Again, thank you, Fixin' Time, for that tip. It's an amazing, amazing picture. And I'm interested. I like that you think Tartaria is a Mandela effect. That's an interesting idea. So anyway, again, just to do the closeout again. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. it means the world to me. I'm having such a good time. And, so until the next one, guys, cheers.